My name's Cameron Skinner. I am a product unit manager on the Visual Studio team. With me here is Mario Rodriguez. Introduce yourself, there, Mario.
My name is Mario Rodriguez. I am a program manager in Team Foundation Server.
So we can answer questions about Visual Studio and Team Foundation Server. Not so much on Silverlight and Azure and things like that, although I could probably wing it pretty well. What we're going to do today is we are going to go through a lap around, which is typically we're going to skim the surface on a number of new Team Foundation Server and TFS. We're going to show some MOS dashboards. We're going to really drill into a few of these things, but we're not going to be able to go deep in any one area. We want to give you that surface area, and we're going to do that all within the next 60 minutes. So let's get into it. Here's the agenda. We're going to show you how Team Foundation Server 2010 and Visual Studio help plan with agility. Who all is doing agile development these days? Lots of you.
Good job.
Fantastic. Okay. TFS, we'll talk about this. We have new support for agile, but that's not the only process that we support, but we're going to show you how we can support that. Then we're going to talk about how you develop in parallel with a lot of the new branching, visualization capabilities in Visual Studio 2010. We're going to talk about continuous integration plus, and we'll talk about what that means. Who else is using like a rolling build? Continuous integration build. Awesome. That's fantastic.
That's great.
Who likes doing that? Okay. It's working for you? Okay, great. Project visibility and health. We're going to show how to keep all the details of as your project is progressing. We're going to give you lots of information about that. Manageability of Team Foundation Server itself. We're going to show you some new enhancements that we've put in the product. And then we're going to try real hard to leave some question and answer period at the end. Usually I like to do these things fairly interactive, but we've got too many folks here to take questions while we're going. So we are going to have about 10 minutes at the end to do that. So let's drill into it. Okay, click. There we go. Plan with agility. All right. The thing I want to emphasize here, we're going to show you some new capabilities that is directly targeted at agile development, but I want to emphasize the fact that the process in Team Foundation Server is your process, it's our process, it's whatever you want to make it. It's very customizable from work item templates to the workflow between these things. So it's very customizable. I want to make sure that you really take that away as we show you some more specific agile techniques. The customize and plan that we're going to show you is around some new agile workbooks, and Mario's going to show that to you in just a second. And we really want to make sharing your plans and getting your entire team involved in planning a first-class citizen in TFS. And we're going to show you that integration with MOS, assuming our network connection is there. Is it in? Okay. And new in 2010, TFS 2010 is hierarchical work item queries, and we're going to touch on why that's a real important thing for your organization as we move forward. One other thing, we are going to try our hardest to stay out of PowerPoint.exe. So we are going to really try to stay in Team Foundation Server and Visual Studio and demo as much as we possibly can. And so with that, let's demo.
And we'll start. So everyone can see that in both screens? We're good then? Okay, so like Cameron said, new in Team Foundation Server is we actually spend a lot more time now on the Agile process template. We're doubling our efforts on it, and we're shipping with it an Agile work group. And what that Agile work group would allow you to do is actually just plan your iterations. If you're doing Scrum, it would also assist on that. So what I want to show you really quick is just that we have an iteration 3, so it's our third sprint in this. And we're just going to go and do a quick plan and do some load balancing on that. So you at least take a look at it. So Cameron, so we're going to start our iteration. So let's say we're going to start in 2/1/2010, because by then is when we're finished with everything else.
Good.
And how long do you think? 2 weeks? 2 weeks. Okay, so I guess.
Your sprint plans out there. 2-week sprints? 4-week? 2 weeks. Raise your hands.
2 weeks. So 5 working days. At Microsoft, we do those all the time.
Okay.
Feature like this. But okay, so over here, all I have to do is say, look, this is the area. Here's the iteration of it. So I'll zoom in a little bit more in it. You can see at the top that we actually give you some guidance also on what you should be doing in this specific worksheet. So I have my area iteration. This is my iteration 3, my start date, end date. The total number of days gets automatically calculated for me. So if I step out of that, I have my 10 days. So let's see actually what we're going to do planning instead of me typing everything, and we have some populated. And over here, you can see I have 3 user stories, and I have some tasks underneath them. So just go into a little bit.
Everybody in the back
details.
see that okay?
Okay, and we have them assigned to some of our developers and some people that are not developers either. So you can see me and Cameron on that as well. So we go in it, and then we also have a sheet that is all about your capacity. And this is really cool, because now I could actually see, as part of my Scrum planning, here's the capacity that I have on those teams. So over here, you can see that my team is only working 4 hours a day, that I have them only on coding. And so that gives me 160 hours that we could spend on this iteration, and that's what's over here. But we could also see something here, Cameron, which is, we don't seem to be balanced. You seem to be slacking a lot. I think your utilization is less than 10%.
It's looking perfect to me, actually.
Yeah, and I know. So we should try to do something about this. And we also see that John is, he's overutilized right now. He's also...
So let me interrupt you for a second.
Yeah.
So you're saying here, right here, we've got, in this case here, we've got 100 hours is what this is telling us, and we're utilized, if I scroll over here a little bit, utilized completely, but the green says we're actually got hours that we're not using.
Correct. It means there's some balancing that we actually need to do because there's someone not pulling their weight on.
So are we going to fix that, Mario?
Yes, we are. And so what we're going to do right now is we're going to go to this iteration backlog, and guess what? We're just going to go and assign you a task because we really want you to work on this.
You're going to assign me a task.
Yes, so we're just going to go in it. It's Excel. I'm just going to click task, and then we're going to go over here and we're going to put it underneath this user story, and we're going to say, just for the sake of this, we are load balancing.
Yeah, careful.
Exactly, and we're going to assign it to you, and John had 45 hours on that, so we're going to pretty much go and say 30 for you,
whoa.
I know.
Easy, Mario.
And then 15 for him. And then we're actually going to go and save that real quick, and we should actually see that it no longer, so we can see John is a little bit, but you seem to be, so I did something over here that really quick, because you can see that Cameron did not get that, so we're just going to go here in iteration 3 and assign that to the right iteration, and then when we do that, we could then see the capacity for Cameron increase. So now we're really making use of the boss over here.
I don't know if that's actually going to get us to the finish line any faster, really, actually.
Maybe not, you're right, you're completely right. So that's one of the new things. You could also have a burn down chart, just similar to Scrum. That also gets published up to SharePoint, and you can visualize that there. You could also plan for interruptions. So over here, you can see that John has vacation 2 of those days. That's why he only has 32 on it. And you could also add holidays, and all of that will reflect in your capacity and in your reports.
Great.
And
so these are workbooks that come with the Agile guidance in Team Foundation Server 2010.
Correct. Excellent. So the next thing that I want to show you is actually our hierarchical work items. So as you guys know, how many of you guys tried to do something to implement hierarchy in TFS because we still didn't have it there in 2008? So some of you guys, so now you have it. So you can see here the user stories, and then I'm going to show you this. And I'm just going to hit a plus, and boom. Those are all of the tasks underneath those user stories. And those are hierarchies. So anything bubbles up to those user stories, your hours remaining, your completed hours, it bubbles up to that.
And this is generic, right? So any work item could have a hierarchy. So requirements, you could break those down to sub-requirements,
correct.
et cetera.
So there you go.
There we go.
I love them. I'm a PM. I live and die by this stuff, to tell you the truth. So the next thing that I want to show you really quick is just how to actually edit a query to display that information. So over here, this is new. Over here, you have your normal query editor. And then on the bottom over here, you can see, and I'll highlight a little bit, is a sub one that actually allows you to query underneath those work items. So the top level is your query for the top level work items, and then anything underneath is to filter those. So for example, I could come over here and say, not only that, I want the title. So if I don't want to show everything, that have add. And then if I just run that really quick, then it should show me all of the user stories with titles with that. And let's have it run. And hopefully the network, this is going against a live server in Redmond, so hopefully it will complete really quick. If not, you could get the story. Essentially what that would do is it would allow me to actually query on all of the user stories that have tasks that have the title add that contain it in it. and we could not connect to it, so just imagine that actually work on it, and we'll continue from there. So again, so that's hierarchical work items, and that is also my agile work groups.
Great. Thanks, Mario. Okay, so I was playing with agility. Now let's talk about some new capabilities around developing in parallel. How many folks are building on a team more than 5 people? A lot of folks. Are you using any branching strategies? Do you have a branching strategy that you deploy? You employ? Okay. Lots of complexity around branching, as you can imagine. Lots of complexity around, even if you're not using branching and you wish you did, there's complexity even there, right? If you're not, I remember back in the day when I was a small ISV and I was using Visual SourceSafe to run our shop, I had a versioning or branching strategy, and it was called mobile disk drives. So we would release, we'd go good, and we'd pull that drive out, and we'd put it on the shelf, and we'd put in a new drive, and that's our branch.
I love that one.
Yeah, that works.
We actually have in Codeplex a guidance on it.
Nice. So
you should read it.
We've got it a little easier than that nowadays. In Visual Studio, we're going to jump into what that looks like in here. And we're going to talk about how do you leverage not only the branch visualization in 2010, but how you can actually manipulate your branch structures and change sets from branch to branch. We automatically handle updates and detect merge conflicts and these sorts of things. And we're going to show that to you right now. Am I wrong? If I click that thing. There we go. Oh, yeah. And in terms of complexity, this is clearly a case of significant confusion. In terms of branch visualization. So we want to make it a much simpler way. We don't want to do this to you when you start getting a complicated branch structure. Right?
I wouldn't want to live in that world.
No, that's
Definitely
no good.
not.
That's no good. So let's go show how it should be done.
Okay. So the first thing that I wanted to show you is what we have done with branches. So the number one thing is that we actually upgraded into first-class citizens. And what that really means to us is the following, is that now we understand that it is a branch. Before, when you saw it in Source Control Explorer or any other visualization, it was just a folder. And really, for Team Foundation Server, it was just a folder on the back end. Now we actually have them as a branch. We understand that it's a branch. And because of that, we could actually take higher level actions on it and enable features that before were not possible for us. So the first thing that you will notice over here is that these two icons over here are different. That's because they're branches.
Can you zoom in on that, Mark?
We'll definly zoom in on that. So
New
here
icons.
it is. I mean, our UX guy will love that. So here's the icon he designed. It's pretty cool, I think. So, so we're going in. So there's two branches on it, but not only that. We also give you the ability. So if we actually go over here and say view hierarchy, we also give you the ability to actually visualize it. This is a WPF window, but not only that, I could even visualize everything there is over here. So I would say full hierarchy. Actually, this is another one that is prettier than this, so you could actually see the full of it. And we'll go here, hierarchy, and then we'll say I want to see everything. And actually, we show everything. So here it is. So these are all of my branches. I could actually go and visualize what it is and what is that relationship. So I have a PC demo, which is really my main branch. And then from there, you can see that I was working on my V1 UI features and my V1 framework. And then that went to my main. And then I actually did a V1 release. And right now, I'm working actually on 2 other releases. So that's V2 features and V3 features. And then just for the sake of consistency, I put a V2 Power Tools there. That's not consistent is what I'm trying to say, but we got to work in that way. So, so we give you an ability to actually visualize your branches. Not only that, you could actually go into the properties, and what you will see is that you could also add a description to them. So if there's anyone that wants to understand what this branch is used, what is its purpose, why is it logged or not logged, you could always come over here and update it real time. So if you're going to log a branch, you could do it over there, and people could go and read the description and say, hey, we're doing something on it. You're not going to be allowed to check in or anything like that. So that's pretty interesting. The next thing is relationships. So we're able to show you the relationships right from in here. And you could also manage your permissions just like you did before. Okay? So that's one. Now, that in itself is okay. But we wanted to take it one step further. We wanted to actually innovate on the concept of a branch. We actually wanted to bring features to you guys that that other competitors didn't have, and wanted to actually make your life easier when it comes to branch management, and also understanding the changes that occur in those branches and how those changes travel across your branch structure. So one of the new features that we have right now is one that is called tracing. So we're just going to go over here quickly to view history. So I'm over here. You can see that camera has been checking in a lot on those 15 hours. And for you guys who notice, the history window is no longer one little dialog that was pretty much only read-only because you couldn't take any action on it or anything like that. Now we actually give you a full document window. It has a very rich set of features. It also has labels on it. So you could just view your changes and your labels right from one UI.
So I can actually create labels right from here, Mario?
Yep, you could create it. You will have to go to Source Control Explorer, but yes, those labels that you will create will show up right here. And you don't have to go to two separate UIs to actually see the history and your labels on it.
Nice.
So all your bills, for example, will show up over here too. So over here I have this, and this is one of the features that I had, and I'm going to say, look, I want to track that. I want to see where this change that I have made, how is it that it has been propagated across all of my branches. So all I did is say, I want to track that change set, and that change set could include any number of files. It doesn't have to be just one file, which is what the majority of the industry does. It could be any number of files in that change set. So I just click that. I say, hey, I want to actually visualize it in this or this other branch. I just click visualize, and boom. So what you can see over here is that change set 42 was introduced in this branch, the V1 UI. It actually went and got merged to 43, and then it went back to the release. So that change that I made in V1 UI has been propagated all the way through the release.
So those arrows are actually showing the flow of these change sets.
Correct. Those arrows are flowing the flow of the change set. So you can see it right here. Yep. And on over here too. But not only that, I could also see it on a timeline. I mean, this is good just at a high level, but I could also see it in a timeline. And what it looks like is this. So you could actually see, look, in November, this is when I actually did this. In December, this is when I did this as well. And we're very excited about this feature. So what about, let's say I actually merged, but I didn't go and propagate all of those changes that I have made. So let me show you what a partial merge of that would look like. So if we go back into my V2 features, and we click on the view history, and we'll track that too. And we'll select that. So this is what an actual partial one looks like. So what happened here? In change set 47, I had two files that were checked in. Okay? It was main window, and then I just did some quick edit on it. But when I actually merged it, I only got in the main window. So I had forgotten, right? I had forgotten my SAML file on it. So actually, no, my CS file as part of it. So this is what a partial merge would look like. So you could even do this with, for example, if I'm fixing a bug and there were 50 actual files that were edited as part of that bug fix, which that would be a humongous bug, but if you imagine something like that, and then someone just merged 25 of them, and that's why they're getting build errors and all those things, I could quickly see that. I could catch it like this. I could just go and say, okay, you did not merge everything you needed. You see, you have some squiggly lines going this way. I need you to be solid green on that. So let's say if I want to get it to be solid green, I could just drag and drop, and that's it. I drag and drop, I click next, it tells me the change set that I want to merge, I click finish, and voila. Now I just actually executed that merge. Just drag and drop on it. So now another thing that you will see new, another thing that you will see new here is your conflict resolution. How many of you guys are actually hate the conflict resolution of TFS 2008? I mean, I hate it, so. I mean, you could be honest with me. I despise that thing. So many customers scream and beat me up on it that it's incredible. But, and the reason for it is, I mean, there's two main reasons. Number one is that thing is mortal. And whenever you're working on a conflict, I don't care who you are, sometimes you get a conflict, you don't understand what it is, and you need to do some research. Then you have to actually close that, go back into the IDE, go and do all your research, come back into it, and go and resolve one of the conflicts. Oh, but I have 70 more. And you go over and over, and by the time you do that, I mean, you're sending hate mail to Microsoft on it. So and we're always getting terminated our connection, so beautiful. But we'll make it happen. So one of the things is modality. So we wanted to get away from that modality of the actual conflict resolution experience. And the number two thing is people always said, you know what, I don't understand why I'm getting a conflict. I really do not understand why is this a conflict. I need a little bit more information. I need some timeline. I need some change set on it. And I want to actually have that right there instead of me going to 20 different history windows to actually get that. So what we did for you is we incorporated both of those in. So over here, and I'll zoom in and I'll go down a little bit, you can see that now we get the actual conflict resolution right there in the pending changes window. So you don't have to leave the pending changes window. You get a channel just like in the change set, just like in the checking comments and the policies, right? You just go in it. It has this little nifty icon with a red thing in the middle. And then we could show you that the actual conflict, what type of conflict it is. So we could see that it's a version conflict. So, and if I'll go a little bit, actually, no, I'll go zoom in again so I can show you that. So the item content has changed. So now we actually tell you, look, you have a version conflict because the item content, the physical content actually on those files have changed. And if I want to see this, so if we just go and click on the compare, I could see that there's just a common demo over here. So this is why I'm getting a conflict on it. And I also added some, I'm handling the pressing of a button that says, TFS rocks essentially.
This is absolutely looking like my kind of code.
Yeah.
Just a comment.
So one thing that, yeah, I know, it's pretty easy now. So if we go back to it then, so over here, we not only tell you that the item content has changed, we actually tell you what the source and the target and where those changes actually originated. So we could see that you're trying to merge into PC demo, which is really my, my main, right? So I'm trying to merge into it, change set 47. And the actual change set, the version at the PC demo is 43. So now you could actually see, okay, so this is the last time this file was edited. I'm trying to merge 47 into it. I could do a compare from it. In this case, it's pretty easy. So there were target edits on 43. So I'm just going to say auto merge because as you could see, I just added a comment and then just a click event. So you could auto merge that pretty easily. But over here, I could just merge in the change tool. I could actually keep the target branch version. No more yours and theirs. Whoever got confused with that, I never knew what were my changes and where were their changes and all of those things. So now we only have one common vocabulary to actually refer to those things, which is, keep your target branch version, take your source. So just target and source. People understand that very simply. The whole notion of theirs and yours is very complicated. So I'm just going to go auto merge that really quick. And I'm going to go over here and says, yeah. We'll check in. And then we're just going to come to the visualization, and we're just going to say, hey, I want to rerun that. And then over here, you can see that we actually caught up on those changes. So we ended up merging the last one, and we are finally caught up with those changes. So the last thing that I want to do then, or at least to show you, is a way to actually, I think we showed a lot of the things already on it. So
you got the merge.
We got the merge. We got the UI with the hierarchical tracking on it. Second? So what it's saying is why isn't the whole thing green? We did 2 partial merges on it. So it's trying to tell you, you actually merge into it, but you still have 2 partial merges into it. So the top is completely merged, but we also wanted to tell you that, that you actually executed in 2 steps on it. So, and that's why this little thing has the little asterisk on it. But if you want to get more details, I could explain a little bit more on it.
How can you tell by looking at this that everything is marked?
So, okay, so that's good feedback. So let's say.
So the question was, how can you tell that everything is merged, that you don't have more files that you need to partially merge?
So that's good. So most probably what happened over here, and we're going to probably choose a better example on this, is that there's some more changes prior to 47, for example, that need to get into this branch that I still haven't gotten. I just merged the changes that were in 47 and only in 47. So if I do a cache of merge and we actually rerun it, we will see it. But I mean, I could go and explain it to you later on. So
we're going to have 10 minutes at the end. We're going to take questions. Okay?
Okay, so we'll go back to this.
Okay, great. Okay, so let me forward that. Great. So now let's talk about continuous integration. So the idea here is, we want to have features in the product that promote a constant stream of integration. We don't want folks to go dark and go develop, in a silo for too long, and then you check in and it's like this big bang, and suddenly, the whole organization goes down. Has anyone ever done that? I doubt it. Yeah? Yeah? You got a guy back here. Oh yeah, that's me. So the idea is, let's minimize that pain and do it all the time, right? And the idea is, if you're doing it all the time, it should be less painful, And we're going to talk about some of these features. We're going to show that in a second. But the key here is that you're constantly doing your coding, your building, your validating, your testing, and you're doing that all the time. And one of the key pieces, there's a couple key features that I want you to keep your eyes out when we go into this demo. One is gated check-in. Has anyone heard of the gated check-in features in 2010? A few of you? The concept here, and we're going to show it to you, it's very simple. It's take the changes that I've got on my local machine, put that in a shelf set, and pull down, do a get latest essentially on another box, do a build, and if everything goes right, check it in for me. But it's a queuing process, and we'll show you what that is. The other key piece that I want to emphasize is that the build process itself, think of it as a pipeline. One of the things that we're going to show you is the workflow capabilities. We're using Windows Workflow Foundation for the build process itself, and it's customizable itself. So you can add more process into that, and we're going to emphasize that by adding a new step in that build process called architectural validation. Anyone catch my talk yesterday? Anyone in here? All right, great. So we're going to actually show how you can take the layer diagram and make that part of your build process, which is actually doing architectural validation, and we'll explain what that looks like. With that, let's go into that demo.
Okay, so here.
Okay, so let me explain this a little bit. So what this is a layer diagram. How many folks, a couple folks who were here yesterday, well, this will be old news, but how many folks have walked into a conference room and, you've got the 3 boxes, it's box diagrams that's describing your architecture, right? The architecture you just spent 5 years of your life, it's like reduced to like 3 blocks, right? Well, we wanted to give you the ability to actually do that in the tool, but the idea here is let's allow you to say, hey, this is my web tier. Let me zoom in here a little bit. So this block here, this web box here, it represents my web tier. And you'll notice you've got a 1 here. And what that is I've drawn this box, and before that is actually useful, I'm going to drag something from my Solution Explorer, like the project that is where my web project is, for instance, and drag that onto the layer. Now I've associated actual real code and assemblies or namespaces to that particular box. Now I can come down here and say, all right, now the business tier here is made up of this other code, and I drag that code in here, okay? Now what we're saying is when we take this link here and we say the web tier can depend in a dependency manner on the business tier, which means we've said that all the code that you dragged into web and all the code that you dragged into business tier, we're then going to analyze when you go and validate against this architecture or this diagram, we're going to analyze that code to see if in fact your dependency flow is doing what this diagram is telling you. Said in another way, we'll go and analyze the code that's in your business tier and find out if it actually has a dependency on any of the code in the web tier, and if it does, you're going to get an error. Does that make sense? Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to take this entire diagram and make it part of your build process, and Mario's going to show what that means. So literally every build that you go push through team build, we're going to do architectural validation in addition to, just build your bits, get those in a drop location, run your tests on it, do some architectural validation at the same time. Let's show them that.
So we got the layer diagram over here. So we go back into our Solution Explorer and actually Team Explorer, so one. And over here you can see that I already have set up one build definition called Pet Shop with Layer Validation. Let's just open it up really quick. And we're just going to go and edit that for a second. That's our computer. So you guys are familiar with this UI. Before it used to be a wizard, so now it's integrated into a document. Over here, what we have added is a new trigger. So the new trigger is gated check-in. How many of you guys, again, know what gated check-in is?
Yep.
So a section. So let me explain a little bit on it. So what gated check-in gives you the ability is the following. Let's say I have a set of changes in my machine, and I want to actually check that in. But I want to go and validate that my changes are actually going to first build and maybe actually pass a series of tests. But I don't actually want to run that on my machine. I want to have that run on the server in a clean state. So what gated check-in allows you to do is actually it put a gate to any check-in that comes into that tree. And it says, once you actually pass this build definition, and this set of, in the build definition, you could have a set of tests or any set of validation, then we will allow the check-in. And it handles all that automatically for you. So I, as a developer, all I have to do is I continue with my workflow. I just go edit some files, submit it. It goes into this gated check-in. Essentially what it does is it grabs it as a shelf set, it puts it on the server, then the shelf set gets downloaded into the build machine, it gets built, then the build definition does whatever it needs to do with that. If it passes, it gets checked in. If it fails, it gets rejected. So at that point in time, what you could do is you could actually guarantee that whenever checking happens, that you're actually going to have a clean build. So it gives you a lot of more stability into your build process. And it's proactive rather than reactive, right? So in continuous integration, if something happens and I really messed up, I either have to hurry up so people do not actually start getting all of that code in, or I have to roll back the changes, which is another feature that we added in version control, which is, now it will allow you to roll back any change from the command line specifically, but it's TF rollback. So you just one click on it.
Let's show them that.
So
just forget it.
no, I'm not going to reconnect. So over here, all I'm going to do is I'm going to actually enable gated check-in. That's all I have to do from the build definition. And we'll go really quickly into the process of it. And over here in the process, this is kind of a little bit of magic. But over here, what I'm saying is, look, validate the architecture.
You want to zoom in?
Yeah, well, we'll go and zoom in a little bit on that. So all I'm saying is, as part of this MS build argument, go and validate the architecture. Now, that is a little bit magic. You have to understand to do that. But if you don't actually want to do that, you could come back over here into the layer diagram and just look at its properties. And then over here, you could also have it validate. Where is the camera?
It's on the project itself, actually.
It's on the project itself.
Yep.
So you want to show it really quick?
Yeah, sure. If you select the pet shop models, hit F4 here, you'll see this validate architecture. You could turn it on the modeling project itself, and then the validation will occur every time you build. But in this case, this gives you the ability to say, hey, for this build definition, yeah, I want to only do it in this build definition versus doing it every time I do a build, that kind of thing.
Okay.
Gives you more flexibility. Although, the first time Mario saw that, he goes, dude, how is that discoverable? And I said, well.
I know, like, the customer's not going to know that. Here goes a blog post. So, and over here, you could also see my default template. So let's click this. This is the actual workflow file. So I'll open it really quick. If I want to edit it, I'm not going to edit it, but let's say if we do want to edit it.
So this is the Windows Workflow Foundation
Correct.
actual workflow in a diagram.
Yep.
That's the thing that's driving this particular build definition.
Correct. And we'll just go with it really quick. So it's gonna load. Just give it a little bit of time. Just trying to get that information from the server. And here you can see, the first thing is to get the build, and we could go even further than that and try to look at some of these.
How many folks are leveraging DubF in their business currently? A couple folks? Okay.
So you can see kind of what is the workflow of this and all of the steps in between. So all you're going to have to do now, as you can see even an if condition over here. So if there's a clean workspace with a sad face, then do this. If not, do else. So and all you're going to have to do with workflow, you actually get your activities. You put it in the workflow. You actually set the properties. So if I want to actually just set any properties in one of these things, if we hit F4, then that's the way you kind of work with it. So it's a lot better than it is in XML for you guys. So we'll close that really quick because we don't want to actually do any.
You guys going to queue a build?
Yep, we'll do that. So here is my process, and I think I'm finished with those things. So I'm just going to go and save it. So I'm just going to hit Control-S, and now it's already saved. And we have actually done some of these builds before, but so I want to show you what that UI looks like. And Okay, so we'll go here, and we'll see the last 24 hours, and we'll go into. So this is brand new in 2010 as well. And over here, what you can see is our build report. So our build report now is WPF. One of the things you'll see over here, this is what has happened on this build definition previously. So I could see the last one passed, and the actual height of the bar is how long the build took to actually pass. So I could see, if my builds are actually increasing in not in complexity, but in actual compile time or finishing time, not compile only, but in finishing time, or if they're, if they're getting better or worse, what has happened the last 10 builds. So over here, I could see that some of these partially succeeded, and this one actually failed. So it's red, and then the last ones were green. So I could just have a quick history of what that looks like.
Quick question over here, Mario. Shoot.
As you go through these, could you comment on which of these features are client-side, TFS 2010 client only? So if you're running with the 2008 backend, which of these are going to be enabled, and which of these won't be enabled?
Sure. So we'll start to try to do better in terms of indicating what's on the server, what's on the client side, what's 2010. All the things that we're showing you now are 2010 specifically.
Exactly. So we have back compat, so as Team Foundation 2010 client can actually talk to a Team Foundation server 2008, for example. But for the branch, all the branches stuff are actually are new to 2010. You need to have it in the server. If not, the client would actually not know anything about those things. So a lot of the features we actually are presenting do need the actual back-end server to also be 2010, specifically for this, because a lot of the metadata, as you guys know, gets saved in the server. So it doesn't matter what client you have. You could always visualize that. You could always have a view on it. So over here, I can see that. And not only that, I have my log from right here. And on this log, I also have this nifty little feature that say, hey, I want to see the next warning. So I just have to click through this. I don't have to go through a log file that has 20,000 entries. I could just say, hey, I want to see my next warning. Or for example, in this one, I could just go and see, hey, I want to see my next error. And voila, it just jumped to right there.
So in this particular case, you're showing a layer that didn't pass. We did a layer of we did that architectural validation against that layer diagram. If you can zoom in on that you'll see that, hey, you actually have an invalid dependency between these two layers, and it actually shows up in your build log as an error, just like a compile error would show up.
Yep.
So that's all part of the the build process that I was mentioning.
And over here, one of the last things I want to show in the build report is that you could actually also see, so if I go into the summary and we minimize this, I could see my test runs completed from right there. And from right here, I just click one, and I could see my build test results. And I could go, if some of them fail, I could just investigate from right there. No more going into separate UIs to actually do that. So that was pretty nifty. So now let's actually go and make a change and see if what we just saved on our build definition, what does that experience look like? So if we go back into our Solution Explorer, we're just going to pick one of these files to make a quick change to them. So we'll pick this, and we're just going to add a comment on it. We're going to save that, and then we're going to go into our pending changes, and we're just going to check in with gated. The first thing that you're going to notice is that you get a pop-up that says, hey, you actually need to build this and do a validation before we actually check in. We tell you the shelf set that is going to get created and the build definition. So there's also an option to say, hey, bypass this if I have enough permissions to do that. We don't recommend it, but sometimes you actually have to get in with running something, some validation on it. So in this case, I'm not going to bypass. I'm going to preserve my pending changes locally. I'm just going to say build. So I click on build.
So this is like fire and forget mechanism. Developer checks in, says OK, continues on.
Correct. So now over here, I can see that my build has started, and I could double click on that and try to get a little bit more understanding of where it is. So I can see that it's running, and we actually, as we update, we tell you it's been running for an amount of time. So you could at least see if it's doing something or not, right? So hopefully this will actually go pretty quickly. And when it does, what is going to happen is it's going to look very similar to, OK, so there you go. So you can see it now running. You can see the duration of it, what step is in right now. So right now it's running on one of the agents. And then when we get our next refresh, we'll probably finish on that. But what it will look like at the end will be like this other one that we just ran. So, and what it will show is what we just said. We ran for 71 seconds. There were 8 errors and 40 warnings. And you can see that I get also a pop-up saying, hey, my bill started, so my gated check-in already started. And I know, hey, OK, I'm building. Let's see what happens after that. So I have my errors on it, and I could see that it was actually because I did not do something right with my layer diagram validation. So, and that is the new team build functionality for you.
Great. All right. Excellent. So let's talk about project visibility and health. How many folks out there actually have a real good idea, like down to the day, how your project's doing? Raise your hand. You just have clear visibility. A few folks are like, yeah, I think so. But most people did not raise their hand. And why is that? You don't have you're not seeing from a project management perspective what's going on. Changes to requirements are happening, or development is going and you're just crossing your fingers hoping you get what you asked for, essentially. Is that kind of all the above, some of that kind of thing? The idea here is we want to talk about and focus on leading indicators before you start running into some significant problems in your project. We want to give you some visibility into those issues before they become major problems. So, before the car goes off the road, we kind of want to tell you, hey, you're starting to swerve in the wrong direction. And we're going to show you what that looks like. So a significant investment in 2010 was this dashboarding features and these integrations with Moss, et cetera, to actually pull a lot of the rich information that's in the Team Foundation Server data warehouse and make that actionable by making it more accessible to you and your developers, upper management, et cetera. So you can actually start to make proper decisions in time to actually make an impact on your project. So things like project velocity, test progress, how are your tests covering your requirements, that kind of thing. The code churn going on. So at any time, you can say, hey, are we trending okay? We're trying to get this thing released. Is it looking okay? Code churn, et cetera. Capacity planning that Mario had already mentioned and how that feeds into current project velocity, et cetera. And then we want to focus on how do you take the dashboards that were in TFS out of the box and tweak them a little bit. Show how you can get in there just by manipulating the SharePoint web parts and pull in or remove data that is more specific to your particular project. Let's demo that.
Okay. So some of them is actually not going to work fully because we disconnected from the network, but we'll try our best. So this is what the actual dashboard looks like, and it's based on Moss. So that's the actual Microsoft Office server. But what you can see over here is that I have, and this is for the sprint that we just had going on. We started on 2.1, we're almost finishing on 2.12, but what I can see over here is that my task progress, we have 2 days remaining, and Cameron, I still have 8 hours from you that you have not finished. So there's no way, most probably, that we're going to hit that date.
I clearly need to give you my tasks.
Correct. And not only that, I could also see that my team, for some reason, in the user story, right? So if we just zoom in for that for a second, I could see that they're not actually resolving a lot of these user stories. They're working on a lot of tasks, but they're not actually getting the user stories completed. So there's some digging in that I need to do over here as a project manager.
But Mario, these charts are being refreshed on a daily basis. So at any moment, you can come back here and kind of take a look at how we're doing.
Correct. Yeah. So one thing that for you guys to understand is these are web parts, right? So they're very, very easily customizable. You could actually go into edit mode, drag and drop them, delete them from it, and actually give them different parameters as well. We wish we could actually demo that, but we're not going to be able to do that. Another one over here that you can see is the one we call quality. And an interesting thing over here is you can see that my test plan progress, all of that green, that means there's a lot of tests passing. Right? But at the same time, you can see on the bug progress that there's a lot of bugs being found and continue to be found. For some reason, all of my tests are passing, and there's a bunch of bugs being found. I don't understand that. So we need to get a little bit more QA and dev talking on this, so we actually do the tests that are going to find the majority of the bugs. So we don't have 90% of the tests passing, and and we're still cannot release.
This is a great example of you're looking at if you look at one metric, you're coming at it from just one perspective that may not be telling you the whole story. We're trying to get all that data and get it in front of you so that you can actually do some correlation and start asking some more detailed questions. It's all about what questions should we be asking at any point in time to make that proper adjustment. And that's key. That's a great example right there.
So now we actually, oh look, it says that the gated check-in results had failed. So I could get a notification as a developer that my gated check-in actually failed, and I could figure out what happened. I could unshelf those changes. So this is just, before we used to have that power tool that was actually that build notification. Now we have integrated that into the product and made it a lot stronger for you. So we'll do this, and we'll actually go a little bit into edit web part. So there you go. I have a picture for you of what it would look like. So like that. It's going to be low resolution, but at least you can see. So over here, I'm in edit mode. And what you can see over here is that my recent check-ins, I have a way to actually edit the information that is displayed in that. So I have the number of changes that I could display. I could change that from 5 to 10. So if I go over here, that's the number. And I could draw pretty nicely. A guitar. So, and then I could also change what I actually show, my comments, the freshness, or the date, as you can see. So again, it's fully customizable to you. And not only that, you could actually also have one per. So this is for the team. I could also have one for myself. I could actually have my dashboard. And yes, whenever I log in, I could see what the team's metrics are, but I also want to see my own metrics. I have my dashboard. And we could do that because SharePoint sets that state for you, and it knows who you are whenever you log in into it. So,
Great.
there you go.
Thanks, Mario. OK. Now, one of the things that we heard a lot about as we move forward, when we shipped Team Foundation Server 2005, 2008, we required TFS to be installed on a server box, domain controller, blah, blah, blah.
And by a lot, he means like 1,000,000 times.
What's that?
And by a lot, you mean like 1,000,000 times. We heard that
yes,
extensively.
Exactly. A lot. And the idea here was, in 2010, we wanted to make that very simple. When we wanted to enable you, and you can now install Team Foundation Server on a client OS. With a basic, you'll have during your install, you can say, hey, this is a TFS basic install, which doesn't require you to go and manage, analysis services and reporting services and all that. I just want to get into the, source control capabilities of Team Foundation Server, and we make that really very simple for you to do now, which was a big ask from you folks to get that in there. And the idea here is just use TFS that is specific, however your team is using it. If you're a smaller team, you're just really leveraging version control, we can do that. And then we can scale it up to advanced users who are big geographically dispersed teams, and now you can do that as well, all within the same installation. The other piece of feedback that we heard and have acted on in a significant manner is how the manageability of Team Foundation Server itself. We wanted to make essentially one place where you could go to manage your application tier, manage various things that Mario's about to show you, but that we have one spot. A manageability console is what we put in Team Foundation Server 2010. And it does some things, and we'll talk about this a little bit, around indicating to you whether or not your build environment, for instance, your build agents and some of your test agents are actually up and running, and gives you an indication that, hey, things are looking good. Let's go do some builds, et cetera. So with that, let's go jump into some of those details.
Okay. So over here, what I have is the administration console of Team Foundation Server. That's new in 2010 as well. And it's a WPF app. It actually looks very similar to an MMC snapping that you will put in the event logs or any of those things. So over here, you can see I have an application tier summary. So I could tell you what is the service account Team Foundation Server is running under, what is the website that is under, what are the ports that are configured, what is your version. And we also have a list of actions you could take on it. So who actually have tried to update an account password before on TFS? Okay, very few of you. And the other guys, you're lucky. So sometimes it actually takes a lot of pain to do that. Well, now you just do it with one click. We're going to all the Team Foundation Server assets that we have, and we try to update that account for you on all of those as well. So it's one step on it. You could just change your account from here too. Another cool thing that we have over here, you could actually look at your install updates. So before that was, you needed to go to one place, go into add, remove programs, and do a bunch of stuff. Over here, I could just see my, what are the QFEs that I have installed, if I have any, my SP1s or anything like that.
Can you zoom in real quick? I want to show something here. You'll notice that this is a TFS basic install because it's actually sitting on top of SQL Express, and not a full-blown SQL Enterprise Edition.
Correct. So in your basic, you will not need the full SQL. You can just have Express, and it will run perfectly fine. So another things that we have on the health indicator, since we only have 30 more seconds to go, is, for example, this. So now when you actually click on lab management or our bills, we could tell you, hey, you don't have it configured, or there's something even wrong with it. So if I click on my Team Foundation configuration, it will go and try to talk to those controllers and to those agents and try to see what their health is. And we could tell you if they're stopped, if they're running, and what is it say. So over here, we could, right now they're on unknown state. Now they just switched to ready, and I could actually click their properties. I could see the event in the last 24 hours right from right here. So it's a very, very huge step forward for us on managing the server. The last thing is we could actually show you the logs before you actually have to go through a bunch of places and try to see what are the logs the Team Foundation server was generating. Now you have one UI, one location, and you can just interact with a lot of information right there.
That's great.
There you go.
Great. So we've just shown you a whole lot of stuff. We showed you how you can make Team Foundation Server much easier to adopt via that basic, standard, advanced installations. We've enabled this at the heart of what we're trying to get done with Team Foundation Server is we want to make this a very rich collaboration platform. So this is about project management. We showed you some of those MOSH dashboards and the agile workbooks to do planning, et cetera, but then share that inside Team Foundation Server. Clearly, it's a development platform. Architects with the architectural validation. Testers, we didn't get a chance to really show very much on the testing side. We've done an amazing amount of work on that side and more. We've got, our expression blend folks are now integrating deeply with Team Foundation Server, et cetera. And that's just, again, this is just a lap. So we're just giving you a taste of what's going on here. I do want to talk about some of the related talks, and like I mentioned, some of these have already come and gone, but they are recorded, and so you can see these. And there are a few that are later today, and I highly recommend going and checking those out. And we do have some related content if you want to drill into more information about this, the Development Center itself. If you haven't grabbed Visual Studio 2010 Beta 2, there's the link. Run and go get that as quickly as you can. Brian Harry's blog, who runs all of Team Foundation Server, has a fantastic blog that shows how developer division inside Microsoft is using Team Foundation Server and talks about how many work items we have and how that server is actually working inside Microsoft and a bunch of other things. And then I've got my blog there. Ed Glass's blog is all about a lot of the testing capabilities in the product, et cetera. And with that, let's take some time, I guess, to fill out some evaluation forms. No, let's take some Q&A at this point. Come on up to the microphones. We'll get those hot. If you've got some questions, let's take the last last few minutes.
How do we customize the screen for gated check-in, where we mandate this, not actually do an option part of it?
Okay, so that's
A pop-up, you say?
No. He wants to. You're basically asking how do we
At enterprise level, we want to mandate these things. Right?
Yeah, exactly. So that is a security-based mechanism, right? Based on your account privileges.
Yeah, so you go into security, and then I could show you later on if you pass by the booth on it. So I could show you. You go into the security, and Bill now has actually Bill permissions that you could take, and you could say, look, these are the only people that could actually override that gated action. So,
Okay.
So it's through a permission.
Thanks for coming, folks.
Hi.
Thanks.
Does TFS 2010 comes with connector with Enterprise Project Server?
Enterprise. Not yet. I believe that's. You want to comment on that?
So we're still working on an actual. So we just released an alpha release right now of our of a migration toolkit. Another effort that we have going on that. So we're working with third parties and everything to actually integrate some of the features that they will need for us to actually go and connect to more and more of these third-party products or competitor products. But right now we don't have the one that you have.
Is there one going to be on Codeplex?
The alpha release of the migration toolkit is on Codeplex, yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah, real quick. We use SourceGear Fortress. I know you guys just acquired a piece of them as well. Is there a migration path to TFS from that? We use a mixture of that and on time.
Yeah. So we acquired TeamPrice, which is really, in reality, was a separate thing from SourceGear to all extent and purposes. We do not have anything that actually provides a migration path from Fortress, with full history at least, from Fortress into Team Foundation Server. Again, we're working on a migration toolkit to be able to enable, for example, SourceGear and us to collaborate in that when time comes.
So if we move the development team over to TFS, the developers would check out all their code, check it back into TFS from SourceGear to TFS, and have a new branch. That'd be your recommendation?
I would guess the recommendation would be you could utilize the migration toolkit and see if you could sync some of that, or if not, it would be check out all of your code, then check in into TFS, and then that's it.
Yeah, because the problem with that is you lose that past history. That's the only issue.
That's the only problem. Correct.
Yeah. Thanks.
My question is about power tools. So
Yes.
is the power tools which are available for 2008, are they going to work on 2010, or are you going to come up with a new set of release?
So our Power Tool story has always been the version that they are released for is the only version that they work for, and we always move forward. Meaning 2008 Power Tools will only work with a 2008 server. Right now, we're just testing the final build of the 2010 Beta 2 Power Tools, and I hopefully will release it within a week. So we'll release a TFS 2010 Beta 2 Power Tools, and then at RTM we'll release again a TFS 2010 set of Power Tools. You could read Brian Harry's blog. He gives you a very good account into what our plans are for that.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Do you have any support for managing dependencies between work items?
Dependency between work items?
Yeah.
So we have a feature called work item links. So, and one of those links could be a dependency. So you could have a parent-child dependency, impacted, any of those things. So hierarchical work items together with our rich linking will be able to give you that functionality.
Over here.
I have a question concerning migration. When we go from 2005, 2008, there's no tools to supporting the migration at all. What about 2008, 2010?
So migration, you mean like upgrade or?
A full migration from TFS 2008 to 2010.
So yeah, whenever you're actually going to do an upgrade of the server or even on that, so what we...
Both the front end and back end. The app tier and the data tier.
Yeah, those are upgrades. So what you will do is, for example, you have your 2008 server, and then what you'll do is you'll go and put the CD in, and then there's an upgrade wizard that says, okay, now we're going to migrate everything from 08 to 2010. And we'll do both of that on the data tier and the application tier.
What about our VSS migration to 2010?
Your VSS migration, there's a tool that we also ship with Team Foundation Server that you could actually migrate your VSS repository into Team Foundation Server.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
So you showed the visual build with WF, but that was in the context of the layer diagram. Is there a dependency there? Do you have to build a layer diagram? Okay,
No.
Great.
No, yeah, you absolutely do not. We were just trying to emphasize the fact that you could add more processes, more validations that you do, not tightly integrated. Yeah. Go ahead.
Hi. Any migration tools from ClearCase to VSTS, Team Foundation Server?
I believe we have a partner right now that offers one. We're also working on, again, we're working on a migration alpha toolkit, and our hope is that we can utilize all of that, and in the beta timeframe, maybe start working a little bit more with Rational on some of their products and try to see if we could build that. But I believe there's a one by a third party today available. You could go into Coldplex's, see Matthew Mitrick's blog, and it will give you a little bit more information.
Okay, thank you.
So when you install the basic version on a single computer, what kind of permissions do you give it? Is it just local Team Foundation, or can it still tap into Active Directory?
When you, okay, so your question is, if I actually install with a basic edition, do I actually can operate with AD, or can I only operate in workgroup mode?
Yes.
Is what you're saying. Mm-hmm. So no, you could operate in AD. It's the same product. So all you're doing is you're installing it in a client OS and on top of SQL Server Express, and you don't have WSS or RS, which is SharePoint and reporting services. But yes, other than that, it's the same product. So you can do anything you want. You could operate in workgroup mode, or you could operate in full AD support mode.
And can you upgrade it later so it's actually on a server and it's professional, or do you have to start from scratch?
So the question then is, can you upgrade it later? The answer to that is yes. So the way that I would recommend that is you stand up another server and you install the full TFS in there, and then you could actually just get the collection, which we didn't get to show that because we ran out of time, detach it from over here and attach it in the other one. As long as you're not migrating between releases, it's the same release, it should be okay.
Okay, thank you.
Or you could just upgrade that machine. I mean, you could do that too. So.
Quick question. Do you have any suggestions on how could you share a project between multiple solutions? Like I know in a Visual Studio, in solutions, you can add it, but in source control, how could you manage that?
If you could find me on the booth or later, then we could talk a lot more about that. So I could try to understand the end-to-end on that. But usually the way, VSS has sharing. We don't support sharing. We actually are very against that. So we try to actually steer our customers to do any type of project dependencies and all that within the Visual Studio feature set. So version control doesn't have to know anything about that. And the more you keep it that way, the better you will be long term. Now, if it comes to branches and merges and stuff like that, it's a little bit different question. So it will be interesting to talk to you.
One more question, because we're going to get booted here.
Okay.
Go ahead.
As I know, now project managers don't have possibility to work with MS Project, yeah? With this version of
correct. We still don't have the
Correct?
integration between project server and is MS Project the client or the server?
Client version of.
So you can work on that.
We can, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, if you have MS Project, and you could actually get you could have a link into the data that is in Team Foundation server. The thing that we do not have in this release right now is the integration between the server side of project and the server side of TFS. We're working on that, and we'll hopefully have a release of that sometime after.
Okay.
Thanks a lot, folks. We are going to be walking out here, so if you have any more questions, we'll hang out outside the door here for a little bit longer. Great.